Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. The aluminum doesn't
have that ting to it.
No, doesn't have that thing. Yeah, this is the first time we've done a quad, eh?
Yeah.
I think so. Quadcast.
I think 3 of us did it. Was it 1 time or twice?
I think we did it twice. I can't remember. Yeah. But this is certainly the first time we've done all 4 of us, though. Eh?
Yeah, this is
awesome. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Big life change.
Big life change.
Wow.
So, yeah, the premise is the mythology of Sisyphus pushing the rock up. And we were talking about this a couple days ago. And you had mentioned that you have a whole new perspective on that.
Yeah.
Would you care to tell us what that is?
Yeah, I think we'll get there. I think it'd be useful to like set a frame of reference. So like, what is the myth of Sisyphus? What did he do? Why is it a story? Why do we know about it? A 30-second summary of the whole story here. It's essentially, I'm going to stutter on this guy's name a lot. So Sisyphus. He's a king.
It's dangerously close.
Yeah. He's a king, super prominent ruler, great kingdom, really proud guy, very arrogant. And Zeus doesn't like this. So it's a Greek myth, right? So Zeus doesn't like that this guy's really arrogant. And after him doing a bunch of actions, Zeus is like, all right, I'm going to punish this guy. He goes and talks to Thanatos, who is the god of all death. And he's like, capture this guy, kill him. He tricks Thanatos, and then nobody can die because that guy's trapped. That gets fixed. Zeus is still trying to trick him. So he ends up in Hades, messes with that god, ends up getting back up top. Well, he does this a few more times, and Zeus just can't get him. And eventually, I don't recall what takes place, but Zeus grabs him, takes him to Hades, and they're like, we're going to punish you for this. Your punishment is what we all know him for. Roll the boulder up the hill. And as he gets near the top of the hill, every day, the boulder rolls back down. And he has to repeat this action over and over. And before we get into your take of what that is and why that's useful, it's really just the heart of what is mythology. Like, why do myths exist? They exist, my take, is because there's something true about them. There's something more true than like fact itself. They're telling a story, conveying something that's actually meaningful that we have a hard time describing by facts alone. So in the ancient world, they were not consumed with what we're consumed with. We want knowledge, information, give me the details, break it out into a list. What are the facts? What's right and wrong? That's not how they operated. They operated by story. Tell me where this is going. Let me understand why. Let me walk through it. Let me find what's useful about this. So this myth has something useful to it. And what that is, I don't really know. But you had a good take. What was the take of why it's useful to think about Sisyphus?
Yeah, my take on it was, I don't know, just the different directions you could go, the different perspectives on how you could view having to roll a rock up a hill every day. That sucks that before he got the rock to the top, it automatically rolled down on him, because then that's kind of like a torture, you know?
Yes.
Or I guess that is his hell.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if a guy has to roll a rock up a hill every day, there's 2 ways you could look at it. One is victim mentality, burden, slavery to the rock. You roll it up, it rolls down, you know the next day you got to do it again, and then you're pretty miserable. Another viewpoint is to appreciate that you have a burden and you get to do something hard every day. because that's kind of how we grow and learn, is through trials and hardships. And so, yeah, you could roll that rock up with a great attitude, perfect form, enjoy it. So you got two guys rolling rocks up hills. One's dying, one's crushing it.
But they're doing the same thing.
They're doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on how you're viewing it, your perspective, your attitude, it can be a positive or a negative.
So it's kind of how are you approaching life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rock, I'm guessing the rock symbolizes kind of your duty, your responsibility in life. And let's take it from the perspective of like being a man, like the rolling back down the hill symbolizes that it never really ends. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, like you could be 95. Let's say you're hopefully still married, you have kids, grandkids. You don't just get to wake up one day on your 95th birthday and say like, oh, my responsibilities are over. It's like, no, maybe you don't have to work anymore. Maybe you don't have the physical capabilities to go out and volunteer in society, but you still need to be a role model. Like you still need to be a good partner to your wife. You still need a good role model to your kids. You need to be a good role model to your grandparents. So it's like, it never ends. That's just your responsibility as a human being. If you want to be a good human being, you know, it just never ends. And it is kind of interesting because I used to, you know, like look at like, let's say work, for example, you know, hate it, you know, was always looking for, like when you and I were looking at those network marketing things, like looking for a way to get out, you know? And then I realized it was like, listen, you got to survive. You can't just not survive. And in today's day and age, like if you want, you don't have to have a job. You can go out into nature. You can just go off the beaten path. But it's like every single day, even if you take people who lived 150 years ago, you got to tend the fields. You got to everything. Every single thing needs to be done. You got to get your own food. You got to get your own heat source. You got to take care of your transportation, which is your animals. You got to feed those animals, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I came to realize like we have it. It's so easy now. Like all I have to do is go to a job. For me, it's 48 hours every 8 days and walk in. It's pretty straightforward. You got to be on your A game. You have to know what you're doing. You have to do a good job. But it's pretty straightforward. If you pay attention, you'll succeed. And once you leave, you're done. It's like I worked 12 hours today, but I didn't have to work 16 to 18 hours today. And I don't have to work 16 to 18 hours tomorrow. And it is kind of, I have a buddy who, great guy, love him to death, but he's stuck in the looking at like, why, it's not fair. Why do we have to keep doing this? Like, I have to do this for 25 more years, like this and this and this. And I've tried to explain to him, like, dude, it's so good and easy, you know, like it's, and like you were saying, Zach, once you kind of take the perspective of like, this is my responsibility. This is like the world kind of needs me, or this pocket of people need me to do this, to be successful, to keep pushing that rock. It gives you value. It gives you fulfillment in life. And then if you look at it, what I think is correctly, you feel blessed. You feel thankful. You know, it's not this thing you have to do. It's this thing you get to do. And it's like, thank you. Whatever, if there's a God or whatever's up there that is like, thank you. Like, I have a reason to be here. Like, you know. So
I will agree with the perspective of you get to do it and you get to be thankful. Gratitude, always. That's 100% accurate. We have to work. It's part of life. There's no getting around that. You've detailed out that pretty well. The only caveat I will, before I get into that, I would say I would have agreed with you 100%, like completely, up until maybe 2 weeks ago. I found this podcast. I'll call it out because what I'm going to say is not my ideas; it's their ideas. It's called Bema. I think it's a Hebrew word, but shattered my perception of work and really where our value comes from. So used to think you get your value from work and what you do in life, right? I now have a shifted perspective. So before I get into that, you got any thoughts there, Chief?
Yeah, I like a lot of the things you guys touched down on. I know one massive experience I had in the past was something that you mentioned, just the simple act of being thankful or establishing a mindset, or maybe referencing the mindset every once in a while, as life gets busy. But to reference all the things you have, and whether you use a comparative value to, the way it was 100 years ago, or Great Depression, or time of crisis, we do have it really well. And I think a huge utility is simply to look at everything you have and understand that we really are blessed, So yeah, be thankful.
Mm-hmm. Gratitude. Always. So what changed for me was, I'm going to talk a good chunk about biblical stuff, but take it for what you will. I think there's still value in this regardless. What changed for me is I listened to this, somebody handed this podcast to me. I said, sure, I'll listen to it. And the guy opened up with the context of, he thought there was more than people were telling him. He's like, I read these stories in the Bible and I just, they're too simple. The descriptions people give me are just too simple. It's really easy. We just logically break down everything on what it is. He went, I want to understand why these were written in the first place. Who wrote them? What were they writing them to? And what do they actually mean in their original context? So this guy did a bunch of research, started talking to people, went to Israel and learned from people who actually know this information. And essentially, it's just totally different. It goes to what I was saying about how ancient worlds looked at stories as opposed to we look at facts and information. So one of the big things that people disagree with is the first chunk of Genesis. It's the world's not 5,000 years old. It's no shit, of course it's not. At all. But people take that story literally, and that's the wrong approach. It wasn't written to be a literal story. It's written for a purpose. And what's that purpose? So, not going to go into the details, but dude broke it down. He gives a description of a certain type of writing where they hide a secret in the writing. It's a literary function of hiding a secret within the writing. And you can pinpoint it based on how it's written. Again, not going to go into those details. But he breaks on the first chunk of Genesis of, God created the world. First day he did this, and it was good, and then it was night, and then it was day. And then second day he did this, and it was good, then it was night, and then it was day. And they're going through this and through this and through this. And then he was like, who is this story written to? Functionally, who is it written to? Well, the first people that would probably ever hear this is Moses giving it to people after they leave Egypt, right? Because theoretically, he's probably one of the authors. So he's handing it to people who left Egypt. Now, what did these people just leave Egypt for? Why did they leave?
To find their motherland.
And what were they doing in Egypt?
Slaves.
Right, they were slaves. And slaves doing what?
Manual labor.
Yeah. So they're
building pyramids.
Right. They're basically putting bricks together. And for the last 400 years, they associate their function and value to their family of, if I don't do bricks well, my life is shit. So if I break an arm or something, my family won't eat, I won't have things, we're all going to die. My value is, I need to make bricks. So then they get out and they have a total shift from this God that they don't understand. And he's trying to tell them a story. He's trying to tell them something without literally telling them something. Mythology. Laying something out in a form of a story that's not literal or facts, but is telling something true.
Parables.
Yeah, parables, stories, anything that conveys a message. So what is that message that's being hidden in there? Well, there's a lot of areas you can dig into, but as I described it of day one, he did this, it was good, then it was night, then it was day. It says night, then day. That's a weird description. Why wouldn't it say it was day, then it was night? and then start over. Well, that's because he wants them to start their day at night. You think that's weird? Why would you start your day at night? Reason being, he wants you to start your day with rest. So on the seventh day, God rests, right? And what's one of the big things that Jewish people do on actually Saturday?
They don't work at all.
Correct.
They celebrate.
Right. It's
Yeah.
Sabbath. They take the day. They don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And how I was describing earlier that these stories will break down into like a treasure to be found. You can look right in the center, and what it says is they're talking about seasons, which if you translate that, it can be Sabbath, it can be rest, it can be a season. So the whole story is written for the purpose of them to understand you just did a shitload of work. That's what your purpose was. I want you to understand your purpose is not based in your work. I want you to understand when you start every day, you're starting in your purpose. Your purpose is who you are, not what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So stepping back from I am what I do, it's no, I am because I am.
I am who I am. Yeah.
Right. Not what you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I'm not sure if this is where you're going, but I think that is a good way to be able to enjoy the work you do a lot more.
Yes.
Because you're not placing so much value on it. You know, you realize like what I am, like for you guys, like I am a husband, I am a father, I am a brother, a son, you know, I am a member of society. And I am fortunate enough to live in this day and age and in this country that I can just go do this job for a certain block of hours, and that funds my ability to live my life and to be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think, like I was alluding to, I think that helps you enjoy your work more
Yes.
because there isn't so much weight on what you do. It doesn't define you. Mm-hmm. So it almost doesn't really matter what you do. You can just look at it as like, this is just a source of money, and I appreciate that. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think it allows you to appreciate the work as opposed to being like for me, I make cardboard, as opposed to being like I'm a cardboard maker. You know, like I could do so much more. I could use it. Instead, it's like I'm me.
Mm-hmm.
I am, you know, all the things I just listed, and I make cardboard to fund all these things. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like a big refresher for people who might be down in the dumps, kind of stuck in that slavery mindset.
Yep.
At least it was for me. I don't know if it was for you, Anthony, too. But man, having kids, that was a huge refresher to me. I still remember it pretty vividly. 5 years ago, we had the first kid, like going to work, you know, going to work for the first few times after having that kid. I was walking into that job site like, well, just a completely different person, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was walking into the job site thinking just totally different thoughts than I've ever thought before. You know, I wasn't like, man, here I am. Okay, in 10 hours I'll be done. I gotta do this. I was like, I'm gonna fuck this job up because there's like a tiny little human back at the house that needs me to be on the A game 100% of the time. You know, like I can't fail.
Yeah.
And man, talk about like just a little boost for the, you know, the mind. Shift in perspective.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I mean, total purpose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think it was Jordan Peterson that said, like, absolutely, children will be the biggest thing you accomplish in life for them. They'll be the biggest part of your life, most important, highest priority.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start spitting those little kids out.
Yeah, it is amazing how seriously willing people will be to do things for other people, essentially over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Along the lines of what you're saying, you know, putting things into perspective and it channeling your mindset, that minor things that you may have gotten hung up on, like, oh man, do I really want to work this job? It's like, I could work any job. I could get by. I could do this. I could, you know, but when someone depends on you, it's a lot of small things that you used to dwell on that a lot of the times are just about yourself, which is fine. But a lot of them, they get pushed aside quite naturally and immediately.
Yep.
And like you said, your echelon of priority completely shifts, and you really do, like, you just start operating on a like just a complete alternate level, which it's interesting to think, because you have children, massive responsibility, many people, as the stone being pushed up the hill, they're sitting there, oh, these kids, right? Because they require so much energy. However, if you can tap into that gratitude, that alternate individual pushing the stone up the hill, you can be that best friend that your child is completely wanting and willing to be towards you.
Yep.
They want to be your friend so bad, and you can be the guy next to the guy suffering, and you're pushing that stone up, getting it up sooner. It's seeming easier. You're having a better time. And hell, sometimes when you get to the top, sometimes chunks of that freaking stone goes down the other end, and you watch it tumble, and you say, hey, look at that, I did that. And your freaking stone, a chip came off, it got a little bit lighter the next day. And I think that's something to think about as well, is that the shape of the stone, the stone, you can wield it and you can change it, whatever that may mean to a specific individual.
It seems like it's almost like deep in our DNA or something, where we humans seem to thrive mentally, working for other people, doing things for other people. And so, yeah, it's like the ultimate doing things for other people.
Yeah.
When you have kids.
Many people, I believe there's studies that show that, I want to say it's majority. I don't know how much. Many people will have more willingness to go out of their way for others than they actually will before they actually take care of themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
I watched. Yeah, I'm so glad you guys took it that route. I watched this psychology study a while back where they had like people lift things, and before they lifted something, or like they had to hold something up in the air, and before they did that, their mindset, they were told to focus on like something they hate, like maybe someone you were super mad at or something you hate, like get in a rage mindset, and then hold this, maybe a 10, 15, 20 pound dumbbell out in the air. And then they did that. And then after that, they were told to think about like someone you love. Imagine defending that person you love, this and this. And the time was like, I don't know the exact time, but I want to say it was close to like 3 times as long, and yeah, I think I don't have the evidence at hand, but I think there's enough of it to show that we are far more willing and motivated to do things for others than we are for ourselves. Like if I'm left to my own devices here, okay, like I should have brushed my teeth in the morning, but I didn't that morning, or, I should have eaten healthier. I should have drank more water. But let's say if the dogs hear something, you know, it's like if his bowl is empty, it's like, oh, as soon as I notice that's empty, filling it up right away, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's my whole point to this is, I think it's a good mindset overall, is life is far better if you focus on others. Like, as opposed to focusing on what you can get from the world and what you can get from others, if you change your mindset to, what can I do for the world? What can I do for my kids? What can I do for my spouse, people around me? What can I do for mankind as a whole? You're just going to enjoy things a lot more. You're going to be far more productive. I think that is the mindset to go through life with. Like, as opposed to I am a victim of this, as you were saying, switching it to like, I'm a solution finder. Like, I'm an enabler.
Right.
I am a.
I would even go as far as saying that it seems like there's some type of reciprocation law when it comes to it all.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe law is only one way to think of it, but you put something in and you're going to get something out. So if you're not putting anything in, right? And what are you putting in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of it in terms of, I think this is something that people understand and they know, but we don't act it out well in our life. I think kids make it easier to do that, or maybe not easier, but they're a great motivator for that. I think of people who we're very self-critical, right? Like, we're very hard on ourselves about things that we're not good at, and we get hyper-focused on what we can't do, and it tends to bring us down those negative paths. And then people strive to find value in other things, work being one of them, because you can get immediate like success from that. But the perspective that we often lose is exactly what we're talking about, like working for others, putting your effort in for other people. The thought that came to my mind was, you ever hear of people talking on their deathbed? No one ever says, I wish I put more time at work. I wish I tried harder building a career. I wish I bought more cars. Nobody ever says that.
Yep.
It is time with people. It is providing for people. It is connection with people. That is what people want in life.
Yep. Mm-hmm. This is a really distracting time, particularly like this pinpointed moment in time we are with all the technology and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many distractions, so many materialistic things in our view that it's like, yeah, it's really hard to click back, widen that scope. Everything we know, is going to be dust.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all going to die. And
optimism.
It's all about your relationships. It's all about other people, really.
Yeah, cultivating the relationships you actually want to have.
Yep.
So for all the time you're upset with people, for all the time you're making distance and unable to connect, like, drop it. It's not that important. Like, break that apart. Make the connection you actually want to have. Say the words you actually want to say. Don't hide behind it, and don't live this half-assed shadow of a life.
Yeah, there was that Into the Wild. I can't remember his name, but that guy that basically burnt everything and went out into Alaska. And then he couldn't get back over the river, and like, he kept notes, a diary, and like, one of his final passages was happiness is only like real when shared. And we've all been there, where we've like been doing something awesome, we wanted to do something, and then like we did it by ourselves, and then you kind of realize like an hour or two into it, you're like, this just isn't like, I'm kind of over this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're out of time.
Mm-hmm.
We can either end it here or turn the camera back on. Keep rolling. I'm good here.
Yeah, me too.
Do you want to keep going, Anthony, or?
No, we can. Do you want like a closure clip or good?
This is
positive attitude.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Hone in on your perspective.
Relationships. Develop relationships.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you
Yeah.
too.
Love you.